Oh boy, we're finally gonna find out! Here it comes! Here it comes! Oh, come on! So, Steven Universe Future has finally reached a conclusion. And while many viewers agree that they did a pretty good job tying up loose ends, there are still many mysteries that continue to linger in the minds of fans. For instance, what happened to all those one-off characters like Bluebird, Freckles, and Curly? It seemed like something else was going to be done with them, but in the end, they only got one appearance. What about the relationships they were hinting at, like Volleyball and Pearl or Bismuth and Pearl? Shouldn't we see some kind of endgame or at least growth beyond a single episode? What's gonna happen to Jasper? I wouldn't say she was redeemed per se. She still has allegiance to Steven and basically has no idea what to do with herself if she's not serving him. So couldn't we see some kind of road to recovery with her? Kinda like Ralph at the end of Ralph Breaks the Internet? Like instead of showing her bursting through a wall, show her at some kind of meeting or get together. As quick proof that she's defining herself via other things besides Steven and power. I don't know, a little would have gone a long way. But then there's the biggest mystery that's been staring us in the face since season 1. What's in the chest? I mean, it's one thing to set up something in a limited epilogue series and then not follow up on it, but this has been going on for the entirety of the franchise. And it's not just some background element either. This has been brought to the forefront and has had actual plot significance in the original series. And the worst part is that they clearly know what's in the chest according to developer commentary, and they're still not gonna tell us. Like, forget dangling a carrot in front of us. This is basically dangling a bunch of carrots, your next paycheck, your brand new phone, and your firstborn son in front of you. The fishing pole costed your entire life savings, and the fisherman keeps making rude comments at you. You sound like a pitched up Kermit the Frog. I mean, he's right, but it still hurts. Well, until the answer gets revealed to us through some kind of external canon material, similar to what they did with Avatar or Adventure Time, I guess it's left to our own imaginations what could have possibly been in there. And as many of you know, when something is left to my imagination, I go a little off the rails. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do today. Could the mystery of Rose's chest have been staring us in the face all along? Could those other trinkets that Rose left in Lion's mane be connected to the mystery at all? Well, I may not have the key, but I've got some pretty interesting ideas. Let's take a deep breath and try to unlock some secrets as we analyze The Chest, Unrest. We'll start by taking a peek at the origins of this pink pocket dimension. In the episode Buddy's book, it was shown that Rose kept some lions as personal companions. In total, there were 7 that were extremely loyal to her, and I imagine she took great pride in that. And while it wasn't shown on screen, it's clear that one of these lions eventually passed away, and through Rose's grieving tears was given new life, similar to how Steven resurrected Lars after his own deadly experience. And after raising this lion from his grave, what resulted was the big fluffy zombie kitty we all know today, as well as the birth of the pink pocket dimension. Still no clue what happened to the other 6 lions though. I mean, we don't see any other islands in the pink dimension besides Lions and Lars's, so they clearly weren't resurrected. Did Rose abandon them? Were they captured and taken away? Did they take one look at Lion and think, pink's not really my color, and then went to go die somewhere else? I mean, I'm not a fan of pink myself, but hey, a change of skin pigment in exchange for a magic satchel on my head seems like a fair trade. If I just grew my hair out, I'd never have to find a parking space again. Anyway, in the episode Steven's Lion, Steven comes across his feline buddy for the first time. And after saving Steven from a surplus of sand and with the Crystal Gem's blessing, Lion is allowed to stay as Steven's pet. At first, Lion doesn't seem to serve any major purpose and just kinda lies around like any normal cat would. But when Lion 2 the movie came around, it's revealed that the big guy was meant to act as a guide into all of Rose's secrets. For example, when Steven says that he's not very well trained, Lion opens up a portal to Rose's secret armory. When Steven asks for a way to defeat the training robot, he lets Steven grab Rose's sword. And of course, in Lion 3 straight to video, when Steven wishes to know more about his mother, Lion spends the entire episode trying to smother Steven with his mane just so he'll enter the pink dimension and find Rose's videotape. Well, the Steven version at least. He finds the Nora version later on. This pretty much confirms that before Rose gave up her form to make Steven, she gave Lion explicit instructions on how and when to reveal certain secrets to her new child. If he wants training, take him to my training room. If he needs defense, give him my sword. If he wants to know what I'm like, take him to the Pink Savannah, and so on. So wait a sec. If Lion is such a key part for Steven to understand who his mother was, what was he doing in the middle of nowhere with Desert Glass? Also, why was Desert Glass in a pillow instead of a bubble? Well, I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent here, so try to stay with me. Going back to Buddy's book, when Buddy happens across Amethyst, she mentions a structure known as the Sand Castle. It's located deep in the desert and is never in the same place twice. When Buddy finally gets to the desert, Rose is the one to point out the Sand Castle's location. Considering this clearly happened after the war and the Diamond's corruption blast, there are definitely corrupted gems roaming about. So my guess is that way back when, Desert Glass and Rose used to be close friends, and that Sand Castle is actually one of many homes that she built for herself. And with an entire desert of sand to work with, she kept moving to new locations and building new castles. But when she became corrupted, Rose had no choice but to poof her. Rose was going to put DG in a bubble and send her home, but she noticed that DG could still build castles even in her gem form. So she figures, well, no humans or creatures really inhabit this place, so I guess there's no harm in letting her continue to build here. So she put DG in a pillow so she wouldn't reform, but allowed her to still stay in the desert and continue her work. She would often visit and talk with DG, like how Steven talked with Lapis in the mirror, and would even transport her to different spots around the desert so she can keep doing what she loved. Before Rose gave up her form, she told Lion to return to the desert, which him and his fellow Lions would often frequent, find DG's castle, and stay there. Also, make sure DG eventually does get bubbled so she'll be safe without Rose to check on her. Rose then told her friends to bring her child along on DG's recovery mission when they're ready and old enough, since there's no real creature or danger involved, just a simple pillow grab and go. The gems eventually do that, Lion locates Steven, follows them home, they bubble DG, and mission accomplished. In fact, you know all that spontaneous construction that DG was doing at the beginning of the episode? You can even explain that. I imagine that when Rose stopped coming to talk to her and move her around, she became upset, distressed, and unfocused, building random pieces of a structure instead of one solid structure, reflecting how miserable her life is without her best friend. Wow, I've never been more emotionally attached to a pillow in my life. Bravo, Crudiverse. So yeah, based on Lion's early appearances, I assume that Rose had everything planned out from the start. Where Steven would find Lion, when Lion would reveal secrets to him, the whole shebang. But I want to bring special attention to Lion 3 for a second. When Steven asked to know more about Rose, instead of just popping out the videotape like Lion did with the sword, Lion tries to push Steven to visit the island as a whole. So it's clear that the videotape wasn't the only thing she wanted Steven to see, and when you look at the variety of items on display, it makes total sense. Every item on Rose's island at first represents a different moment in her life. The flag and sword from her time as a war general, the Mr. Universe t-shirt from the first time she met Greg, the picture of her and Greg together showing all the good times she shared with him, and of course the videotape which she made right before Steven was born. Heck, even Bismuth plays into this as a representation of Rose's past mistakes and regrets. Considering that Bismuth's gem was just floating there without any sign or warning to not release her, it's clear that Rose did want Bismuth to be freed at some point. Not only as a living testament to her past that she didn't want to hide anymore, but also as a way for Bismuth to have a better life one day. I imagine that Rose could never ask for forgiveness from Bismuth after doing something as terrible as poofing her, so she left her gem in Lion's Mane for Steven to eventually find, in the hopes that Steven would make for a better friend than she ever could. And in the end, he did. He really did. And her life couldn't be better at this point. So, with all that being said, if each of these little trinkets shows a different side to Rose's story and existence on Earth, then where does the chest come in? What would be so secret and special that she would have to put it in a private place within a private place? Well, I've compiled a little list based on my own assumptions and a few suggestions from other people I've talked to, so let's give it a whirl. Nothing! Yes, this is an actual assumption. Some people believe that Rose pulled a Kung Fu Panda dragon scroll on us and just left absolutely nothing in the chest. With how perfectly planned out everything else in her strategy was, I doubt she would just leave it completely empty. Would it be unexpected and kind of funny? Sure, but it wouldn't really fit with the themes that the other items are going for, so I'm gonna say no to this one. Steven's pink varsity jacket was another popular possibility. I mean, he starts wearing it during the movie, which is also the first time that we see the chest open. And considering that Rose and Greg were unsure of which gender they were going to have at first, a pink unisex jacket would have worked fine for either Steven or Nora. I kind of like this idea at first. But after the events of Future, I'm gonna have to turn it down. If Steve was still conflicted about his mother to the point where the very image of her still gives him mixed emotions, I imagine that he wouldn't exactly adopt a gift from her as part of his permanent look. He might have tried it on every now and then, but always wearing it and drawing no specific attention to it seems really off given what we know. My guess is that he just saw it at a Hot Topic one day, thought it looked nice, and put it on his dad's credit card. I mean, the guy still got millions. He probably could have bought all the pink jackets and meme shirts he wanted. Now here's an interesting one I came up with. What if the chest actually contains Rose's personal journal, documenting all the wonderful experiences she's had on Earth? Photos, anecdotes, personal thoughts, etc. All perfectly cataloged in one book for Steven to witness firsthand. I mentioned how all of Rose's belongings represent a specific moment or period in her life. But what about all the empty space between the war's end and Steven's birth? We know she had the time of her life with Greg, but what about all the adventures she had that didn't involve him? Wouldn't she want her baby to share that part of her as well? I could honestly imagine an Up kind of situation, where Steven flips through Rose's memories in the same way Carl Fredricksen flips through his wife's adventure book. And maybe she'd leave a special message with some blank paper for Steven to fill in with his own adventures one day. While this wouldn't completely flip his impression of his mother around for obvious reasons, it would at least let him see some of the nicer moments that she was a part of. Heck, this could even add more context to his conflicting feelings towards his mother and her image as shown in Rosebuds, since all the photos in the journal would be of Rose instead of Pink herself. Another thing that makes me really like this idea is, again, something we see in Buddy's book. When Rose recommends that Buddy become an author, listen to the specific phrasing she uses.
It makes them new and special all over again for any reader to experience.
I don't know about you guys, but it really sounds like Rose has had this kind of idea before. Recording memorable places in intimate detail for a fresh set of eyes to experience for the first time. Sounds like something that a mother with an incredible love of Earth would do for her future son or daughter one day, am I right? It's a bit of a stretch, but hey, it definitely sounds like something Rose would do for her kid. And finally, we have the most likely option in my eyes. It's possible that the chest contains a bunch of shattered gems in individual bubbles. We already know from Bismuth that Rose was completely against shattering gems, and would only cut down physical forms whenever necessary. So I imagine that if any gems were shattered by her hand, or even during the war that she caused, it's something she would be completely ashamed of, and will want to lock away as much as possible. It's a side of her that she would only want Steven to see when he was old enough. Bismuth would act as a sort of test run, a small taste of the terrible things she's done, like for example, poofing one of her friends. As for the shattered gems, she would instruct Lion to show Steven what's in the chest only when he's old enough to understand, like say 16 or 18. So it's possible that at some point before the SU movie, Steven was clearing out all of Rose's belongings in Lion's mane, though he still isn't able to get the chest open. He asks Lion if he knows how to unlock it, and then one of a few things would happen. Lion might take Steven to a secure location where the key is located, like maybe a special place in Pink Diamond's ship, or another isolated cave similar to the armory. Or heck, maybe Lion swallowed that key too and it would just barf it up if Steven asked a question. I know Lion's pretty much immortal, but swallowing keys cannot be pleasant for him. Hopefully she didn't force feed him anything else.
Car key, piano key, skeleton key, keyboard, key to the city, keyhole, key to unbuy.
At this point, it's already clear to Steven that his mother was a pretty awful person. But out of all the mistakes, misdeeds, and terrible actions she's done, shattering gems has never been one of them. So I imagine that Steven would definitely be taken aback by seeing a bunch of shattered gems in a box. She might even leave a note for Steven explaining how sorry she is that she did this. But similar to what he did with Bismuth, where he revealed all the secrets about this that his mom left behind, Steven would take all the bubbles out of Lion's mane and tell the crystal gems what he discovered. Then they would put the bubbles in the burning room as a tribute to the gems that they sadly can't fix at this point. Now we know that during Steven Universe Future, there are clear parallels to Steven's behavior and Pink's behavior. Just like her, he's keeping massive secrets from his loved ones, throwing destructive temper tantrums, and the like. So if it was proven that Rose was a shatterer at one point, even if it was just one gem, it would fit with the theme of Steven slowly becoming his mother, despite trying to repress it. She was a shatterer, and now he's one too. Extremely tragic, but very fitting as well. And hey, this is another one of Rose's deeds that can be fixed. Thanks to Yellow's one-stop gem repair shop, all the gems that Rose shattered could be repaired in an instant, especially if she has all the pieces conveniently placed in bubbles. I'm still not a fan of shattering being retconned, but since it is a part of the canon now, this would result in a happy ending, even for the gems that were unfortunately smashed to bits. So yeah, it took me a little while to get to this topic, but I wanted to do my research. For now, I guess the contents of the chest will have to remain a secret to everyone except the Crewniverse. But who knows, maybe at some point we'll get our answer in the form of a comic book, a TV movie, or even another video game. We've had Attack the Light, Save the Light, and Unleash the Light, but there's still plenty of other verbs you can stick in there for titles. Vanquish the Light, Embrace the Light, Restore the Light, Turn on the Light, Turn off the Light, Fight the Light, Spite the Light, Light Bright, the possibilities are endless. We'll know the truth one day, Rebecca Sugar, even if I have to take matters into my own hands. And by that I mean making so many prediction videos about it that you have no choice but to tell us the answer just to get me to shut up. It's foolproof. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Tell me what you think the contents of the chest might be, and subscribe for more Steven Universe and cartoon content coming soon. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.